Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. I got Sashwath again with us. He's still in college. We read an interesting article again, this time around what Paulson thinks about what's happening in the US, what's happening in the world. What does he think about the impending recession everyone's saying is coming? It's a very nice article. I thought I'll get Shashwat to walk us through that article. Then we can talk about it a little bit once he's finished telling us what this article is about. So let's, Shashwat.
Yeah, so basically, Hank Paulson was the U.S. Treasury Security Secretary in during the global financial crisis or GFC in 2008. India sort of escaped unscathed, but the U.S. there was big turmoil, and the 2008 crisis for people who aren't aware of it is the crisis where you had uncollateralized loans which were packaged into nice bags and were distributed as securities. So they were basically loans were given to people who weren't really credit worthy, and a lot of houses were built, and there were a lot of scams relating to fake houses being built and loans being issued and used for something apart from just buying real estate. So that basically collapsed altogether, and you had a global financial crisis. The stock market crashed. Your S&P 500 and your Dow Jones crashed, and you saw multiple people's houses being foreclosed in the US and Europe and basically all the other financial centers. So he was the US Treasury Secretary then, and he was part of the relief team who basically said, okay, let's engage in quantitative easing. Let's drop interest rates to zero. Let's um, let's buy the bad assets which have been issued now, and let's sort of be the last lender. Let's act as the last lender. And so Hank Paulson now there's an interview which the FT had transcribed. So the interview basically focused on the U.S.-China tensions, which Hank Paulson believes to be something which has to be addressed, and also he also commented on the banking crisis and how there is an impending recession. Because right now there are two minds in the U.S. One mind which says that we're seeing inflation come down, core inflation may be strong, but we're seeing better numbers, and therefore we may have a soft landing in the sense that you won't have a full blown recession per se. So Powell won't engineer a situation where you see your output go down for 3 quarters. I think that's what a recession's definition is. But then you have the other school which basically says no, no, no. There is going to be a recession. If interest rates go up, your credit growth comes down, and you've had two banks which have collapsed in the recent past, and so things are looking pretty rocky. And the argument is that wage inflation hasn't gone down, and people are still spending on their credit card. So credit card growth rate, credit can grow either through loans or it can also grow through credit cards. And credit cards doesn't require anyone to sign a paper and say you are credit worthy. You can use your credit card, swipe it until you have the limit, and you've created credit, you've created money. So credit growth still hasn't come down per se. So the second school which says that inflation hasn't been tamed. If Powell sort of backs down now, then we should see inflation raging again if the punch bowl is placed back, the metaphorical punch bowl. So Hank Paulson says that he sort of lines with the second school, and he says, there is going to be a recession. It's unavoidable. We'll get to that once I hear your thoughts on this.
Cool. So let me just briefly say for us laymen like me, in case of what you're basically talking about. First, what happened in 2008 is important to understand because it is very similar to what's happening now, though the products are different. In 2008, what happened was this bubble happened in home loans, housing loans. So what was happening in the US was the market was really heating up. And because it was really heating up, people felt like prices are never going to come down. Real estate, it's just going to keep going up, 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 up. So there's no such thing as a bad loan. Even if you manage to give a bad loan to somebody, if he forecloses his loan, you'll sell it at a profit. So even then, you make net profit. So you don't have to worry about the underlying asset which you're giving the loan to. They made it equal it to gold or even better,
Yeah.
the way the price was growing in the real estate market. So they kept giving loans. And when they ran out of good people to give loan to, when they ran out of Warren Buffetts in the market to give the loans to, they found out
Yeah.
everyone like was available, like me. And they said, here, though you don't have any paper, you don't have anything. Do you have a social security number? It's like having, do you have an Aadhaar card? That's enough. Let's open your app, put in your Aadhaar card number, and you're eligible for a 2 lakh loan, 5 lakh loan. In the US, it was you're
Yeah.
eligible for a home loan. So people started speculating. Not only did they have one home loan, they said because the prices of these things are going up, houses are going up, we'll buy multiple houses. Like this is happening in year two. We'll have one house and I'll buy three flats and I'll rent those three flats. From the rental income, I'll pay off the EMIs, like what we were talking about, Warren Buffett style. Everyone felt
Right.
like they're a Warren Buffett. They're getting free cash, low interest rates. We just pay it all off. And then at the end of it, we have all these houses, which are all ours, which will give rent in perpetuity. And even if it doesn't give, we can always sell these assets and do something else. Inevitably,
Yeah.
all this comes to an end because it's impossible prices going up forever. And everybody cannot become rich. For few people to make money in the stock market, very famously, it said a lot of people have to lose money. So for
Right.
every Junjunwala Warren Buffett happening, there are a million people losing money. So that's
Yeah.
what happened, and they started imploding. But what happened with the banks was they got so many of these loans. So people started realizing, some of the banks started realizing these loans are turning toxic. So what do we do? So they started saying, okay, instead of saying we're selling clean 100% pure petrol, they said since there's such petrol demand, we'll mix some vegetable oil with it.
Correct.
So they started mixing all kinds of oil with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
initially, what happened was they started putting a little bit of bad loans, mixing it with the good loans, packaging it and selling it to banks, chopping it in pieces. Then, because the amount of bad loans started going up, they started putting more and more of these bad loans in and started mixing it all up. And banks trusted each other. So because
Yeah.
banks had implicit trust with each other, they started buying these assets up. Suddenly, they realized these are all toxic assets and they're all going to implode and all of this is going to be foreclosed. There's no underlying asset which is of value. Most of the
Yeah.
loans are very bad. So the whole thing collapsed. What led to this was banks stopped trusting each other. When they
Right.
stopped trusting each other, the whole engine of the economy stopped. It's like suddenly the heart stops beating and there's no
Correct.
circulation of currency happening, no blood circulating in the body. So
Yeah.
everyone stopped trusting each other. Nobody was lending to each other. So that time the US government stepped in and all the global central banks stepped in and they said, don't worry. If no one's lending you, you come to me. I will get you. That's what quantitative easing was all about.
Right.
They started
Right.
pumping direct cash into the economy, directly into the banks. And they told the banks, you don't have to pay us interest also. Don't worry about the interest. We'll give it
Yeah.
you zero interest. Take the cash. Just keep it going. What that was,
Correct.
it was about to crash. They quickly averted a crash and they managed to stabilize and keep the economy going.
Yes.
Unfortunately, what happened was people got used to this free cash. They didn't know how to turn the
Yeah.
tap off. They left the tap on. Paulson was
Yeah.
hoping that guys would close the tap after responsibility kicks in because he wasn't going to be there forever. So he said the next
Of
guy
course.
will come, will review it, and take a judgment call and close these taps. Unfortunately, the government put leaned pressure on these these central banks. And though these banks were supposed to be independent, they were not independent. They were under
Yeah.
pressure of the government. Government said, population wants free cash. Keep printing it.
Yeah.
So a lot of cash entered the market. And we spoke last time about what happens when free cash comes. You borrow in US
Into
for
the market.
zero and you spread it throughout the world. So this free cash entered the whole global financial system,
Yeah.
inflating everything. This led to, with this coupled with the COVID pandemic coming, started inflating prices again,
Yeah.
pushing all the numbers up. Now what happened is the Fed started tightening,
Yeah.
started saying, okay, what they should have done some time ago would have been
We'll
less
do it
pain.
now.
Anand will always keep saying, taking a medicine at the right time is less painful than waiting to do surgery
Correct.
after a long time. Now we have reached
Yeah.
surgery stage. So the Fed is now stepping really hard on the
Right.
gas of the interest rate. But
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of these small regional banks, after the 2008 crisis, we made sure the governments across the globe made sure all these big banks are well capitalized, meaning they have lots
Yes.
of money. In case
Yeah.
there's a bank run, all these guys have so much of cash, they can meet the demands. That's
Yeah.
not a problem. They
They
change
have
the rules.
routine stress. They have routine stress tests. Yeah.
Correct. And they're highly regulated, meaning everyone's looking at the bank constantly every
Correct.
4 months, 6 months, looking and see what's happening with the bank. But this is
Yeah.
not true with the smaller banks. Smaller
Hmm.
banks, regional banks in the US are not regulated like this.
Yeah.
So these are the banks which are collapsing now.
Because
And
they
this
have
is
some sort
leading,
of autonomy.
correct. And the reason why they're collapsing is famously like what happened in Silicon Valley Bank, when these interest rates are so cheap, these banks are so flush with cash because depositors are dumping so much of cash. They wanted to put something safe, to invest it somewhere safe to avoid any problems. They put on
Correct.
US government securities. And when these interest rates started going up, these securities started losing value. But like
Yeah.
Anand said, if everybody just stays calm and doesn't worry about it and goes demands their money right now,
You
if you
hold
don't
it
need
till
your money,
maturity.
yeah, you hold it till maturity, your money is coming back. There's nothing to worry about. The problem
Right.
is because of the social media, Twitter, and internet, rumors started spreading. And when it
That you're
comes
not
to
going to be
money,
able to.
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't care about rumors about politics. You don't care rumors about aliens coming. But when it's
Right.
rumors about your money, which you consider the most important thing,
A
you don't want
panic
to take a
sets in.
risk. Yeah, you don't want to
Yeah.
risk it. You don't want to
Yeah.
be like, hey, just a rumor. You don't
Yeah.
want to be the guy holding the short straw. So you rather get your
Yeah.
money out. So all these regional banks, they're having a run. And all that capital is running to the big banks,
Yes.
which is leading to a lopside in the US.
Yeah.
So this is the problem Paulson is talking about. He's saying inflation is one issue. We may
Yes.
tackle inflation. But if you look at the whole economy as a human body, it has multiple organs. So
Yeah.
inflation is like blood pressure. But because inflation, blood pressure has been high for so long, it's already damaged a lot of the other organs in the economy.
Correct.
So you do not know what is going to happen, what effect it's going to have on the kidneys, what effect it's having in the eyesight. But you need all these organs to function for the
Yeah.
body to work in entirety. So he doesn't. So that's what he says in the article. He says very nicely. He's saying we don't know. He says nobody can predict.
Yes.
But looking at the picture in entirety as a human body, I mean the whole economy as a human body, it doesn't look very good. As a general
Right.
physician, I look at it and I say, yeah, that guy's a specialist. That journalist or that economist is a specialist in inflation. He's saying it's okay because as far as he's concerned, his metrics are all right. Your blood pressure
Yeah.
is down doesn't mean you're okay. You could still
Right.
have some underlying issues. Same way, that's what Paulson says in the article. And he says that coupled with what's happening with
Hmm.
China and US, there the problem is both of them are not talking.
Yeah.
Both of them are, it's like the famous Hindu story of Ganesha and Muruga, where,
Yeah.
both have got egos. Who gets the
Yes.
fruit? It's like that. And then
Yeah.
you don't know who's going to get offended. You don't know who Muruga is in this and who's Ganesha in this story. Who will finally
Correct.
get the fruit? Because both
Yeah.
of them are, the whole world is a parent. So
Yeah.
US is trying to convince the world, I am the best, stay with me. Now China is going around telling everybody, forget the US, their old story. You be with
Yeah.
me now. See what I'm going to do
Yeah.
for you. I'm the global
Right.
factory. I'll give you lots of incentives to work with me. I'll give you cheap loans. Why does the US only the one who can't give cheap loans? I'll give you free
Yeah.
stuff. So the
Yeah.
world is kind of in a fulcrum right now. And you see it the way the French president recently spoke. The Europeans are stuck in the middle and their banking sector is far more in an endangered position than the
Yeah.
Americans are.
Yeah.
So if you take that into context, we do not know. US so aggressively has been pushing on China's back, they might end up alienating themselves,
Right.
because they pushed it too far where their natural allies, which have been their allies for a very long time, like the Europeans and most Asian
Yeah.
countries, might find it too much to stomach
Right.
because as it is, we have too much of domestic pressure. So we don't want to piss China off too much because
Yeah.
we're already fighting Russia and all that is happening. So you don't want to
Yeah.
make enemies everywhere. So they might tell US, boss, this is your problem. China's your problem, not our problem. Taiwan, we never
Right.
promised anything with Taiwan.
Yeah.
So suddenly don't push us and say you must agree with this for Taiwan. That may happen
Yeah.
is what Paulson's saying. And then US will kind of shoot itself in the foot. Of course, Anand argues all this is not possible because of the dollar being the reserve
Yes.
currency. That's all true. But like Paulson says in the article, most friends, big superpowers don't go into war
Because they want
knowingly.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they want to. It happens accidentally. All it takes is
Exactly.
one small stupid mistake,
Yeah.
and that
Like
could
that
roller
Chinese
coaster.
spy
Yeah,
balloon. Yeah.
yeah, and that could snowball into something devastating, and it become too late. And once it becomes
Right.
a position of ego, even if Joe Biden doesn't want to do, he'll be forced into acting.
Right.
That's what Paulson is saying in the article.
Because the Democrats and the Republicans have taken hard lines against China.
Yeah, and they fed this poison to their public
Yeah.
for the last 4 or 5 years. And this whole pandemic, they've been blaming China through Trump. Because of
Yeah.
political reasons, they've been using China as a bad
China.
dog and beating China, trying to
Yeah.
take away attention from domestic issues. But now
Correct.
you cannot tell your public, oh, hang on, it's not
China is
so
actually the
bad.
good guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not so bad with the Chinese, they're
Right.
actually not so bad. You can't take a
Yeah.
U-turn. You've been telling
Yeah.
through your media mouthpieces how the Chinese are torturing people. So if you're a liberal person, you don't like China. If you're
Yeah.
a conservative, you don't like China for different reasons.
China.
Conservatives don't like
Yes.
because China is taking away jobs.
Jobs.
Liberals
Yeah.
don't like China because there's no human rights. So you're
Correct.
given all kinds of correct reasons for each person in the US to hate China. Now you can't
Yeah.
take a U-turn on it and say, no, hang on.
There are friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Taiwan's not so important. China's more important. You can't suddenly take a
Yeah.
U-turn on that.
Yeah.
Which is what Paulson talks about in the article. He says we have to be very careful, which
Right.
is all very valid points. And he's just trying to get some kind of, because he has a mouthpiece and people listen to him, he's
Yeah.
trying, a lot of people agree with him on this. Like Henry Kissinger
Yes.
and everybody agrees with him on this. And Michael
Yeah.
Bloomberg agrees with him on this. But he's just using this FT article as a mouthpiece to get this information out to the public, saying, you guys don't
Right.
react. Just because someone insults you, it doesn't mean you have to take it personally.
Marcus.
Let's try to put everything in context.
Yeah.
Let's understand why that person is the way they are. And he's appealing
Right.
to the Chinese too. It's just not the Americans he's appealing
Yeah. He's
to.
been going
He's
in and out of Beijing.
Yeah, so he's appealing to the Chinese people and the Chinese leadership, and he knows Xi Jinping very well. He's trying to appeal to them also, calm down. We don't want a war. You also don't want a war.
Yeah.
We still need each other. There's economic interest. You can make money, we can make money, and still manage to get along.
Exactly.
But like he says in that article, I don't know. I feel that ship has sailed so far down the road. Can we take a U-turn? I feel it's like he says the recession is inevitable. Even some kind of skirmish with China is inevitable now.
And once you're past that point of no return, I guess even according to that, your inflation imports will go up, your import costs will go up because you're no longer going to import from them, and if you do, there's a tariff. So either way, you're looking at some sort of recession, either through stagflation where your costs are too high, or through the fact that your demand isn't slowing down much. So,
and it's true,
but
very true.
yeah, and with your regional banks, as you said, regional banks are now scared to lend. Now that they've seen two of their buddies blow up phenomenally, they're scared to lend. And Paulson is saying that credit growth has stopped, and you want regional banks to lend, not your big banks. Your big banks lending doesn't make as much of a difference as your regional banks lending.
No, because the reason is in the US, most of these transactions which keep the economy going are very small transactions regionally. And these big banks don't have a footprint over there. And they can't overnight get a footprint over there. And most of these banks run on personal relationships with their account holders. These big banks don't have these kind of relationships. So they can't enter into a state and quickly set up and develop these relationships, which has taken years to develop, and start working with customers. That's not possible. And if banks, let's say a business in Utah is doing some kind of project with a guy in Illinois, and he's got two regional banks, small banks, which need to work together to make this project happen, may not happen. Because the regional bank will say, you involve a big bank in the middle to do this. Big bank, why will you do it for free?
Yeah.
He'll say, I need a meal ticket here. If you want me to help these two regional banks, he's going to tell the American government, okay, well, what is in it for me? And of course, the article, the reporter says, isn't it true that most of the wealthy made more money during the recession? I mean, the 2008 crash. Didn't they make? Well, he says, but that's inevitable. When you go into a building to save everybody, if there's some criminals in there, you end up saving everybody. If the building's on fire, you have to save everybody. Even if there's some very bad enablers in there, maybe even the guy who was an arsonist was inside that building trapped, you have to save him.
Yes.
Afterwards, you can do analysis and say what happened, was it right or wrong. But at that moment, you have to save. So when that happens, the government steps into. Government has a blunt instrument. It's not a precision instrument. So people will make money. Equity market will make money.
It's like the man with a hammer. To a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Correct. And people like Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, and George Soros leverage this. You can't blame them. If that's an opportunity to make money, why not make money?
Yeah. And the thing is, what Paulson says, which is quite interesting, is that he says that it's not even that the rich are trying to make that money. It's more of a it's almost as if we're endoing it onto them because you have no other option because if you own stocks and you save the economy, the stock market is bound to go up. So
Correct.
regardless of whether the rich say no, 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 I don't want to be saved in this, there's no they don't
No,
have that
there's no.
agency. Yeah,
No, even let's say, like you said, Warren correctly said, like I have a equity stake in a company and it's going to shoot up. Even if I want to go liquidate and save myself from being embarrassed with so much money coming to me, I can't. There's
yeah,
nobody there to buy it.
exactly.
When the market is collapsing, everybody sells with very few buyers.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about selling 10 shares, 20 shares. We're talking about selling a million
Yeah,
shares.
quite a bit. Because
So
they're
it's
the
very
rich.
hard
Yeah,
to, yeah, it's very hard to liquidate these things.
right.
And the way tax structures are there in the US, that's why Warren Buffett says, I'm willing to pay more tax,
Yeah,
but I can't. There's no way for me to pay.
yeah. And that's what even Bill Gates says that he needs to be taxed much higher. And
Correct,
that's the thing is they're willing to pay that much. They're saying, please tax me at whatever higher
correct,
rate. Come up with something where you're able to take this money away from me in a legal way.
correct. But the problem is, like I said, the American instruments, I mean, the government, not American, the government instruments are always blunt.
Yeah,
So when it applies a rule, it has to be for everybody.
correct.
So some people, few rich people might be agreement to it, but vast majority may not be in agreement to it.
And they
They'll take
lobby
their
for
money
it
and go
and
like, yes, like Anand said, like in France, if the government keeps on stepping on the French rich's throat, the French will just take
yeah,
all their money and leave France.
correct.
So there's
And then you're
nothing.
worse off
Warren
than
Buffett
before.
may stay, Bill Gates will stay, but other people don't have to stay.
Yeah,
And those people, the small fishes add up to a big fish.
correct.
So this is a
And
problem.
yeah, and there's another interesting quote. He says, Paulson says we can never abolish financial crises, and
No,
he
you can't.
says that they will always happen.
Yes.
So I wanted to hear what you had to say about that, and why do you think that these? I mean, can you theoretically have a sort of policy where, or not a policy, but a legislation a system, a policy system, or intervention system where you're able
No,
to
no.
reduce the impact of these financial crises, not to the
No, you
extent
cannot.
to which they go to?
No, you can't. Because inevitably it's a human system. Wherever there's a human being, there's fallacy there and there's
Fallibility.
corruption there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that's Soros.
corruption is inevitable.
Yeah,
And human beings are by nature like that. Nature
correct.
itself runs in that. If you see the way animals are, you're constantly, even the way the plants grow, everything looks for an edge. Constantly, nature is looking for an edge to
Yeah,
beat everything else around you. Survival of the fittest, it's programmed into our DNA. So when you see an opportunity, it is very normal for you to want to go in and take that opportunity. I was telling case
yeah,
of that in one of the videos. I said, I see all these politicians in India, supposedly they're very corrupt, and supposedly each one has made some 1,000 crores, 500 crores in a scam, and they're like 70 years old, 80 years old. What are they going to do with all that money? It just
yeah,
doesn't make sense. Okay, I understand if you're like 20 years old and you want 100 crores, you want a 2,000 crores, I get it. You have ambition,
yeah,
you have desires. But when you have one foot in the grave and you have diabetes and you're dying and you have cancer, why do you need 1,000 crores? You can't even
yeah,
spend that money.
yeah. And
But
so
I don't get it.
I also wanted to touch up on what you thought about India's position in this sort of Cold War between China and US.
India will always play up, because
Yeah,
India will wait and watch. This is not because of our government. If any government is there in power in Delhi, India has historically always tried to be non-aligned to anybody. We try to be
yeah,
the poor Switzerland. We're the Switzerland's a rich neutral country. India is a poor
yeah,
neutral country. India everyone
yeah,
wants because India's got a huge market. Any
yeah,
country which manufactures anything or provides any service who wants to make money has to be in India. So they all want to enter India. So they want to be in India's friend. At the same time, they don't like it when India takes a position which is politically doesn't put them in a good light. So
right.
Americans would love it if India gives China a thumb and comes and sits with them. And Chinese would love it if they tell America to get lost and go sit with China and Russia. But India will play it safe.
Yeah,
because we can't afford to get it wrong, because we have our own problems. We have our own
Correct.
mouths to feed. And this is true for all countries across the globe. This is what Paulson says for America. America is just assuming when they say jump, whole of Europe will jump for US.
Yeah.
It's not true. The way the politics is going in the European countries, where it's going further and further to the right, they don't
Yeah.
even want to stay together in Europe. Forget supporting US.
Yeah. That's true.
They're finding it hard to get along with each other. So the
Yeah.
question of supporting US against China, it's a big question mark. I don't know if
Yeah.
that'll happen. But it's interesting.
Uh,
But of course, he does say, to conclude, Paulson, that nobody can predict the future, let
right.
alone him.
The quote,
With
he says,
yeah,
I've been around long enough to not predict anything.
correct. You can't. With
Yeah.
all this AI technology and computing we have, we still can't predict the damn weather.
Right. And I think
We
it's
can't.
kind of a funny quote because you expect someone to say, I've been around long enough to predict what is going to happen. But he says, he breaks it. He says, I've been around long enough, so I know that I can't predict it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hey, we can't even predict what we're going to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Forget the world. Each person
No, yeah, that's
individually.
true.
We have a broad idea what we want to do tomorrow, but there's
Yeah.
no guarantee that we will end up doing that. We can write in a
Right.
piece of paper, we can be very disciplined, and we can plan. But life happens. Life happens all the time. John Lennon very famously said that life happens when you're busy making other plans.
Right.
You don't know when you're going to get shot.
Yeah. Okay.
So
That's
that's
dark.
life.
Yeah.
That was dark. I know it's dark, but that's
Yeah.
reality. Life
Yeah.
is limited.
But,
Like Anand keeps saying, each of our runways are very limited. So what
right.
you can do with your runway is also very limited. But should
But,
not take life too seriously.
But that's Paulson says that failure isn't an option, and we have to figure out a way where both these
Yes,
countries.
because this failure is not an option for the simple reason it's going to threaten the very existence of America as a country.
Yeah.
Because Americans have had war after war after war since World War II. Every decade has been filled with some big conflict where their children have gone there and fought the war for somebody else. It's not war
Yeah.
in the American continent, believe it or not. No war
Yeah.
has, except for Civil War, no real war since then has happened on American soil. So all
Except
these
for
wars
Pearl
they've been
Harbor.
yeah. Okay, that's Hawaii, man. I'm talking about
Yeah.
continental America. Okay,
Yeah.
no one's reached, and no American soldiers died fighting a war on that continent.
Yeah.
So they've been fighting for everybody. They feel like the American public feels like they've been fighting the world's battle for everybody, and no one's grateful.
Yeah.
So if they get drawn into a conflict with China and the rest of the world is not really standing up with them, internally in the US, it's going to lead to a lot of problems. The American government and American president will find it very hard to convince the American population that they need to be in war with China. They'll be like, hey, if the world doesn't care, why do we need to?
Yeah.
And it could lead to a very strange situation. And one of the blessings for America has been since World War II has been the American dollar being the reserve currency. The American
Correct.
population does not realize what a blessing that is to keep printing currency as you wish, and the rest of the world just has to swallow it.
Right.
If they lose the reserve currency, all bets are off. And Charlie Munger famously says that even the Roman Empire finally fell because of inflation. Inflation is the killer of empires. You keep
Yeah.
printing your currency thinking it's no end to it, and you keep on pleasing your population base because of
Yeah.
election and politics. Eventually, it catches up.
Right. And
Eventually, it does.
that's pretty much what I have for you today.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting article. Thanks, Sashwath, for sharing it with us. I hope
Yeah.
to keep digging these kind of lovely articles and bringing it to us. We would love to
Yeah.
read it with you and have a chat together so everyone in our channel can hear it and kind of get into a mind's eye view of what you and me are thinking about and what Anand is thinking about. So thanks again
Yeah.
for coming to our channel today. Thank you everyone
Thank you
for
for having
joining
me.
us today. I hope you subscribe to our channel, turn on the bell notification, and do share our videos with your friends who would like to watch this too. And we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Today, I want to tell you that I'm going to be in Singapore, and we are going to have an event on the 29th of April 2023 as we come closer to the event. But the event is fixed on 29th at Singapore. Those who want to meet me in Singapore, either at the meeting or personally, can contact the WhatsApp number below or send a mail to the mail mentioned below. I will see you in Singapore. Once again, thank you for your support for Be Rich. It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.